Okay, we're rolling tape now.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. And it's April 26th, year 2000. And we're going to do a family interview of Grandma Gill, Evaline Gill. And we got Cousin Debbie here and Aunt Mary here, and Sage is being a movie prop over there, and we'll just hope she stays happy. And I wanted to start out with asking questions about what you can tell about your parents and even Bill's parents and where they came from and that sort of thing.
Well, my mother and dad, my mother came from Macomb, Illinois. And she came across in a prairie schooner with her mother.
Like a covered wagon?
In a covered wagon, and with 3 siblings. Her 2 sisters and her brother. And I can't tell you much about that because she never talked very much about that. So I don't know about that.
Do you know anything about her parents?
No, except that her mother always lived with us, and when she came to live with us, I'm not quite sure, but she was always there, so I think she must have been there from the time that we moved into our house on 4th Street.
And was your grandma born in America or born overseas?
Oh no, born in America, but
Okay.
I don't know where.
Yeah. And then your father?
And my father was from Austin, Minnesota, and I don't know, his family came from along the Rhine River, someplace. And I don't know exactly where that is. And
in Germany.
it's in Germany, yes. And then they met in Bismarck, or rather they met in Dawson, not Bismarck. They met in Dawson, which is near Steele, North Dakota. And Dad worked on the steamship that was on the Missouri River, and just plying up and down the river, as I understand it. And I don't even know their marriage date now. I've forgotten that.
Well, I think I have that written down somewhere.
Yeah, I think you have that in the records. And you also have the wedding announcement in your histories.
That's right.
And so you know that was in Dawson, and which is right next to Steele, and North Dakota, and that's where the homestead was. It was in Steele, North Dakota. Grandma taught, and my mother taught in Steele. She was one of the first teachers in Steele. And then they moved to Bismarck and were married and lived on Thayer Street in Bismarck. And then when I was about 2 years old, moved to 811 4th Street, which is right.
Which is the one you just visited?
Yes, which is the one that you have the pictures of.
Right.
And that's as much as I know about my mom and dad, except they're just living with them all those years that I did.
And so I only know like a couple of stories from your youth, but I remember the story about you taking the car across the river and you weren't supposed to.
Oh yes, I was had a boyfriend in Mandan, which was across the Missouri River, and Dad had said when I could drive the car that night, don't go to Mandan. And of course, Clara and I had our boyfriends in Mandan, so the first thing we did was to go to Mandan. And unfortunately, Mandan time was an hour earlier.
Oh, that's crossing the time zone?
Yes, that's the time zone. And so if we went to the show in Mandan, then we got home too late and we got caught. So we know we were in Mandan. And this one time I hit the concrete center post going to, just before I got onto the bridge going to Mandan. And smashed. I thought I had really done something to the car, and I really hadn't done anything, but I had to tell my dad I had done something, and I had to, and of course he knew then that I had gone to Mandan.
Whoops. So were you grounded or in trouble or what?
Oh, I was in a little bit of trouble. I was never in too much trouble.
How old were you at that point?
In high school.
So basically just allowed to drive. And of course at that point we're talking about a buggy with little skinny wheels and a rag top on top, or was it a...
Oh, no. By the time I was in high school, that was about 1913 or 14, so the cars were a little bit better than that. By that time, I think we had started to get our Dodges, because we had 29 Dodges.
High school actually had to have been a little in the higher teens. You were born 1907.
Yes.
So...
Would have been about
16. I must have been 16.
So that would be almost
22.
1922 or 23.
Yes.
And so you actually had a big hard top car and everything, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Was that hard to have for somebody during that period, or was everybody getting them?
Oh, no, everybody had cars then.
Okay.
So that was nothing special, except that I just wasn't supposed to have gone there.
Right. Didn't you have something to do with a horse buggy or something?
That was Mother. When Mother, the mailman had a horse and buggy, and he was coming across the street on 5th Street, and Mother ran right straight into the wagon, knocked the poor guy off the horse and off the wagon. But luckily he wasn't hurt, and none of us were, but Dad was, who got very sulky, like some
Runs in the
others I
family?
know.
Right.
And when he got mad, and he didn't speak to us for about 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
Yes, he stayed mad for a long time.
And when he's mad, he just stayed quiet and
He just didn't talk.
smoked his cigars and...
Cousin, it's cousin.
Yeah, kind of sounds that way, doesn't it?
Little familiar sounds in there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And,
So-
what else during that period? Mary, do you think of stories during that period?
She never told me any of these.
You don't remember those? I remember some of those with the car.
Yeah, that was Mother with the car, not me with the car.
Well, I remember the
horse
Mandan
and
stories,
buggy.
but I thought maybe one time you had bumped into the horse and buggy. But
No, I didn't bump into the horse and buggy. I was a better driver than that. And
So then you graduated high school and were one of the few women of that day to go away to college, or did everybody do that too?
everybody was going to college in those days, because going to college cost us about $1,000 for the whole year, with our books and our food and everything included.
Mm-hmm. And did a lot of people choose to go so far away like you did to go to
No, they
Washington?
did. Most of them, or a lot of them, went to the University of North Dakota. Most of my friends did,
What made you decide to go to Washington?
because Bob was there, and he was there because of forestry school. So I went there because he was there.
Oh.
And at that time, it took us 2 days, and one night, I think, on the train to get to Seattle
Mm-hmm.
with the old Northern Pacific Railroad.
And then you graduated college and decided to take a teaching job in Alaska.
No, not that soon. I went to Washington.
Oh, that's right.
The very first place I went to.
That's right.
And I was there 1 year, and then was recruited by the superintendent in Montana to go back to Montana the next year. So then I went to Montana. And after I was in Montana, which was quite a place, almost like a Peyton place at that time.
Yeah, you had stories from there too, where
There were lots of stories that came out of Peyton, out of Scobie.
out of Peyton Place.
Yes.
Lots of mischievous behaviors going on there.
Sexual behaviors.
Oh my! Well, we won't broach that subject.
Yeah, that was really quite a top. And
Not for you, of course, but for all the other people in
yeah,
town.
that's right. The kids knew more than I did.
Wow.
And so then I got my opportunity to go to Alaska and decided to go to Alaska.
And for any reason in particular that you decided to go to Alaska?
No, I just got a telegram that there was a job opening, and I was late in deciding I was going to do it because I was going to be married to somebody my mother didn't want me to marry. And so in order to avoid staying home with my mother and listening to her,
Was this guy from that town in Montana?
no, he was from Minnesota. And I got the telegram that there was a job in Alaska if I wanted to accept it.
And you decided that was a good adventure and let's go?
So I just decided that anything, I'd just get away from home and I would get married the next year when I came back, but it didn't happen that way.
And then where did the first Bill Gill fall into place?
Well, not the first Bill Gill, it was the second Bill Gill in my life. Because in Washtenaw, Washington, there was Bill Gill too that I went with.
Yeah, that's the one I'm referring to. He came before you went to Montana?
No, yes, he was in Washtenaw.
So then you broke up with him when you went to Montana?
Yes,
And then you went to Alaska,
yes.
and he was still writing letters to you in Alaska?
Oh yes, and that's when I met Bill, was when I was reading one letter from the other one.
Both Bill Gills.
Yes.
That's crazy. So we were all destined to be Gills, that's for sure.
Yeah,
What
that
happened
was,
to the Minnesota man?
what?
What happened to the Minnesota man that you were gonna marry?
Well, he just gave me up. We gave each other up when I got to Alaska. We never got back from Alaska again. Oh,
Who was
we weren't
that?
very happy
Was that
about this,
Johnny?
are we?
Was that Johnny?
Yes, that was Johnny.
Johnny Bigger.
No, not Johnny Bigger.
Oh.
Clarence Johnson.
Oh.
Was his name, called Johnny. No, you're thinking of somebody from college. You aren't happy, are you? No. You're not very happy sitting here right now.
Okay, so then you
Neither
get
am
to
I.
Alaska, and you were teaching in Fairbanks?
No, in Anchorage.
Anchorage. And that's where you met the second Bill Gill, the one who's our
Yes.
grandfather.
Yes. Your grandfather. On Friday, February the 13th, I had my first date.
Oh my. And then how long did you guys date before you were married?
2 years. Yes.
And then when you were married, you moved away to Fairbanks?
Yes, we went up to Fairbanks.
To the mines?
No, we went to Fairbanks in the coal mine, for the coal mine, but not for the mine itself. We were in the coal bunkers. Yes. That's what's the coal bunkers.
When you were in Fairbanks, you were in the coal bunkers?
Yes. And we were there for a year,
Mm-hmm.
and then we went back to Healy Fork,
Mm-hmm.
and we were in Healy Fork for 4 years.
And that's where the coal mines were, huh?
Yes. Yes.
And what did Bill do during that period?
A little bit of everything that there was to do at the mine. He was the accountant and ran the grocery store and ran the theater and.
So it wasn't like he put on the helmet and went underground to mine the coal.
Oh no,
right?
he never went in the mine. The only time he ever went in the mine was to check the miners' coal
Uh-huh.
for their paychecks.
And where did the gold mining stuff come in? Just for the fun of it? Like your watch chain and that sort of thing? Didn't he...
No, that came from a jeweler in
Oh, okay.
Fairbanks, and those were the little gold nuggets that Bill had mined. And then they were made into the necklace by the...
So did he just do that for the fun of it or something?
Oh, everybody always had some gold nuggets in
Oh,
Alaska.
I
Yes,
see.
yes. Yes, they did, didn't they?
You could pretty much find them anywhere you went.
Yes.
Yeah. And you taught school at the coal mines even, huh?
Yes, I taught school there for 1 year. That was all that they had the school, no, 2 years, I guess, that they had the school there.
Is that where you were shooting the gun at the
Squirrels?
squirrels in the
Yes.
backyard?
Yeah. Got pretty good at hitting those little squirrels.
What was that? You don't obviously like to shoot guns or kill things, so were they like getting into the garbage or something?
Yeah, they were eating the garbage and And yes,
And somewhere there's actually a picture of you holding the gun, isn't there?
I guess there is one of those.
Yeah, I
yes.
remember seeing one of those.
Yeah, yeah. But I didn't get to do that very long because I wouldn't take care of my dead ones, so I got turned off on doing that.
Oh, you would leave them dying in the backyard, and then you got banned from shooting those
Yeah.
squirrels.
By my husband, yes.
And life there was pretty tough because basically it was colder than heck most of the time.
It was very cold, but I wouldn't say it was tougher than heck. It was really, really a wonderful time and a wonderful place to be, except that when you're in one place, you always want to be someplace else.
Right.
And so you're always thinking that someplace else is better, but it was a good place to be, really.
And that's where the
We
story.
had a lot of fun.
That's where the story comes in with the rhubarb wine.
Oh yes, that was then when we went to Connect. That was out of Anchorage.
Hello? No, she's busy right now. Can I take a message for you?
So you went back to Anchorage, and that was when you had the rhubarb
What's your
wine?
number?
Yes. And
Okay, one second.
that was, I went up to to visit these two little men that were from England that lived up there. And we had first some raspberry wine, and it was so good I had 2 glasses of that. Then I had a glass of rhubarb, a little tiny bit of rhubarb, 12-year-old rhubarb wine. Yes, 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 I did. Yes.
And then you were drunk?
And Mom Gill came in and screamed because she said, "What is the matter with Evelyn? Because she's green." So then I had a tablespoonful of moonshine, which really knocked the whole thing right up. And I was a little bit high. Yes, I was.
Which we have to know is very rare for Grandma.
Yes. Probably the only time I really was that way.
And
Yes.
then what can you remember about Bill Gill's family then?
Oh, they came out from Iowa, from Persia, Iowa, to Anacortes, Washington, and they were there until the gold strike. And then Dad Gill came up to Alaska in the gold strike, and didn't strike gold, but moved to to Anchorage, and opened his garage in Anchorage. And he was the first one. Yes, he was the first one to drive a dog team from from Seward to Anchorage.
To deliver the mail?
Yes. Yes.
She might be getting hungry.
Oh, are you getting hungry already?
Yeah, I would have to say it's
Yeah.
been 3 hours since she ate, so
Well, that's what she's
we can
got.
take a pause and warm up the milk. Let's see where the pause button is.
Oh, my.
That doesn't seem to
And
do
when
it.
you begin to cry, does that tell me that it's high time that we get something to eat in that little wooden hut? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, 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 yes. 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 Ooh. 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 To market, to buy a fat pig. Home again, jiggity jig. No, I don't remember the rest of that one. Does Jimmy remember that one?
I don't remember that one.
This little piggy went to market. This little piggy stayed at home. This little piggy had some roast beef, and this little piggy had none. And this little piggy cried, wee, all the way home. Yes, that's what it
So we're rolling again. And
So we are.
and then where did we leave off exactly?
I guess we were going, were we ready to come outside? I think we were.
To come outside?
Yeah, when you're in Alaska, when you were gonna go to the state, you came outside. So we were all ready to come outside.
Well, cousin asked you a couple things about
What'd you do for fun?
yeah, what was living in Alaska like? What would you do at Healy Fork for fun and
Well, at Healy Forks for fun, all we did was play cards and eat.
canasta or poker or
Canasta and
bridge?
bridge all the time, practically all the time. Pinochle. And we just played cards and we danced on Saturday night. We had a movie finally that Bill ran.
There was like a dance hall?
Yes. And one time Bill was running the film and the film was running out of the box and ran completely out of the little cubicle from running the film in and was coming out. They threw the whole thing out on the floor because they were afraid it was going to catch on fire. So that was a job to put that film back together. And we saw movies every Saturday night, and sometimes we danced. Did the Swedish polka with Gus and Pete.
Where does the whole airplane thing come in? Where Bill got interested in airplanes and one of his friends was a pilot or something?
Oh, that was when Noel Wheaton first came to Alaska and landed on golf course, which was the only golf course in Anchorage at that point. And his plane was, I don't know what happened to his plane, but it had to land there. And that was when Bill got interested in aviation and was going to go to Seattle when he was graduated from high school. And now
High
she's
school?
going to go to sleep. Yes.
High school or college?
High school.
Did Bill go to college?
No. He was going to aviation school instead and got an industrial pilot's license, which he never got a chance to use because when we came out here, we came out to go to school to the Boeing Aeronautical School in Oakland. And when we got here, Val, who was an old bush pilot from Alaska, yelled across the field to us, and he was working for Douglas and got Bell a job in Douglas, and we never got to Oakland. We just had a job in Santa Monica.
So his friend that was in Anchorage with the airplane got him interested in having a job, and what
Well-
company was it?
In aviation.
Which company, do you remember?
When he started,
Yeah.
it wasn't any company. He came out to go to school, and there was a flying school in Seattle.
But you wound up having a job in Santa Monica.
Yes,
With which company?
at Douglas.
At Douglas.
Yes. And then he went from Douglas to North American, and that's where he was a brake tester of the B-15s.
And so that's exactly what brought you guys down here, was the job at Douglas?
Yes. Came down when the wages were $125 a month, and our rent was $35. And if we had a steak, it was 15 cents, and that was a big treat.
Hmm.
And you could get a whole bag of groceries for a couple of dollars.
Sheesh. And what year did you move down to Santa Monica or to LA?
1937.
1937. And that's the first place you lived was in,
Santa Monica.
oh, you did live in Santa Monica.
I lived in Santa Monica, not too far away from the Sawtell, the soldiers' home. And with Grace and Val in a little apartment right next door.
Uh-huh.
And with our money, didn't have very much to do anything with, but we played cards and got together with 2 or 3 tables of bridge and had quite a time.
And what made you move to El Porto?
It was close to North American. And so then I think our apartment in El Porto was $35 too.
It was just a part of a house or something?
Yes, it was the upstairs apartment in a house, half a block from the beach.
And did you guys go to the beach a lot?
Every day,
Every day?
yes.
Did Bill surf or go in the water?
Oh yes, he went. We all went in the water, and everybody came to visit us because we were living at the beach.
Mm-hmm. But Bill never surfed, huh?
No, he never surfed.
And then you wound up saving up enough money to buy the lot on the 6th and John?
Yes, and we had got a loan from my mom and dad for our down payment on the lot, which at that time was $950, which was for a 2 lot size or double lot size.
Yeesh. That same lot that's going for $2 million now.
Yeah, at least that.
Right. Crazy. And
Crazy.
And then what else about that period? That's when you started teaching at
No, I didn't start teaching. I had Mary and I had Bobby and all of the hillside. None of us worked on the hillside because none of the women worked then. We all stayed home and took care of our babies. And had quite a hillside with Margaret and Mariel and Marie and Don and Kay and Port and Gladys and all of the people that, and Alice and Adolph Ehlers and all of them that we went to the beach with and went camping with and did everything with.
And then that's when Bill got sick and died.
Yes. And then that was when I started to teach school. And then from then on I taught school until 1969 at 186th Street School.
And so how many years was that you taught? Because obviously you got a retirement. So did you teach for 20 years?
I taught for 28 years all
28
told,
years.
counting all my years.
Counting all your years. But you were 20
Yeah.
years in California?
Oh, I was from 1946 to 69 in California.
And so you only began teaching because Bill died.
Yes.
And how was that experience as far as feeling like here you were in a big house and had to raise kids and had to go back to work teaching and raise the kids? Was that tough?
Well, it wasn't easy, but you do what you have to do and you get it done somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I guess I raised them. They're sitting here, all the products.
Yep, all of them are here. And then
Almost all of them are
you've
here.
actually been in retirement for over 30 years, which is longer than you taught.
Yes.
That'll throw a wrench in the system, huh?
Yeah, that's going to ruin the actuarial
Yeah.
sounds on at the retirement office. But they still pay us, so it's all right.
What else can you think of, cousin?
What are some of the funniest moments with my mom and Bobby that you can remember?
No, don't you dare.
Well, what are you thinking about?
Blue and white polka dot dress.
Oh. Shall I tell
No.
about the blue and white
No.
polka dot dress?
Oh, you can't bring it up and not tell it.
Well, Mary will have to tell that.
I don't remember it. You tell it. I don't. I mean, it was embarrassing.
Well, Mary had given to her, she was about 3, and she had this darling little blue and white polka dot dress on, and Kay and I were, and Susie and Mary were downtown and walking home, and I looked back, and here was Mary chewing on a piece of dog dung, and didn't even get sick, but scared us.
Mm-hmm.
And Oh, there were lots of funny moments. We had a lot of funny ones. We had a lot of worry ones, but we had a lot of funny ones. And a lot of experiences. And now they're all grown up and taking care of me. And that should be the end of this, I think.
That should be the end of it.
Yes.
Can you think of any other questions, cousin?
How much longer does that thing go on?
No, it could go on for another 30 minutes probably.
Oh, no, it won't.
I can't think of much more though.
I think you finished everything.
How about give us some predictions for 10 to 20 years from now? What kind of things do you think are going to be changed?
Oh, Ozzy, if you think of all the things that have changed, see, I've seen the First World War and the Second World War and the Korean War and the Vietnam War and
The Gulf War.
the Gulf War, and I hope we don't see any more wars.
Do you think that's possible? Do you think the world's in a period where we won't see
No, I
any more?
think it's going to get worse. And I'm even afraid of what's going to happen in the United States because I think that there's going to be trouble if they keep segregated in little groups. It's going to be trouble.
The haves and the have-nots and the minorities and the majorities.
Yes.
You
And
know,
but that's the only one that I can hope that I can. I wouldn't predict it. I hope there won't be any.
What are all the conveniences that you've seen unfold over your life?
Oh, if I could just have my little email slip here, I could read you all the things that, and bobby pins.
What were the
and
things that-
washing machines and
What impacted you the most? What were the things that you were so glad were invented?
oh my, everything that's been invented has been a good invention. So that's kind of a hard thing to answer.
Like TV and
TV and radio. We had the little old Victrola with the little Victor dog on the top of
RCA.
it,
mm-hmm.
and
You kind of had to wind up.
the radio. And
So you were around basically when the telephone was invented, right? Or
Yes.
it became a mass thing. You were. I mean, when
Oh,
you were
I
born, did you have a telephone in your house?
Oh yes, I don't know when I was born whether I did or not, but I know in Bismarck we did. It was underneath the stairway in a little closet, and that was our phone was in the closet.
Why did it have to be in the closet?
It was just out of the way, and it was on the wall. It was a wall phone, and so you couldn't carry him around with you. You just had to go to the phone.
Did it have a crank?
Not that one, no, but some of them did.
did you have like gas stoves and stuff, or were they fireplace stoves, or like
We had
going
electric.
way back?
We had
You
electric
did have
stoves.
electric?
All the time that I lived in Bismarck, that I remember, we had electric stoves.
Did you do a lot of hand washing, or did you have washers and dryers, or?
Oh, we had washers and dryers. You had to crank the handle to dry your clothes. We ran those through the wringer. I can remember doing that down in the basement.
Were you around when they actually invented? When you guys did you have a radio when you were young, or was that something you got later?
No, that was what we had later.
Like how old were you? A teenager or something when you got a radio?
I don't remember the beginning of the radio too much. I remember the Victrola, but I can't remember when the radio came in.
What about the TV?
Well, the TV, that was much, much later. That was after,
1954.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We had our first TV in 1954, because I remember coming home from school with a senior, Ronnie. Remember Ronnie Mitchell?
Yes.
And we would watch TV in the little
Yeah,
porch area, and that was in '54.
I can't imagine life without TV. I watch it every day.
Or radio, even.
Or radio.
Well, the radio I never have listened to very much. I enjoyed the television all the time.
And when you were both young and when you were living with Bill, did you dress up all the time? Seems like photographs of people back then, you were always in a suit and a tie and a dress.
Well, you always were. The slack suits didn't come in until, gee, I don't think women wore slack suits. Can't even remember when that was.
Well, you were wearing slacks in some of the pictures when I was a baby.
Yes. So that had to be 40.
You don't have to mention the year.
But even before that was just dresses, huh? That's all there was?
Yes, and the men wore shirts, white shirts usually to work. And
What about on the weekends? You sat around the house on the weekend, were you still in a white shirt and tie?
oh no, we had T-shirts and those too.
Oh, it's funny because every picture I see of old people, if you look through all your albums, it seems like everybody's in a suit and a tie. All the time.
I resent that old people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's true that almost all the men in business in Bismarck wore ties and white shirts and suit pants. Never wore shorts. Our bathing suits had skirts on them halfway down to our legs. That was really living it up.
We won't even talk about what you feel about mini skirts and knobby knees because we all know that.
Yeah, everybody knows my
And
thoughts on things.
What about the story of how Bill died? That's always kind of a tough story, but an interesting one to have on tape about how he basically, all within one day, felt sick and...
No, he was sick for a week, and they just thought that it was, I don't know what he exactly thought it was, but he just thought that if he just rested, he'd be all right. And then he went back to work on Friday and came home from work at about 9:30. We were going to go to bed, and all of a sudden he was stricken with a heart attack.
And you were right there in bed with him?
Well, we hadn't gotten into it. We'd just gotten into bed. And then he got sick, and so he was trying to go to the bathroom because he was sick all over. And I tried to call doctors. I called our doctor, and he said, give him an aspirin. And I hung up the phone and said he's beyond the aspirin stage. And then called Marie Hanny and Kay and trying to get a doctor that would come out to the house because nobody would come to the house. Finally did get one doctor to come out to the house, but by that time Bill had had a coronary thrombosis and it had gone to his heart, and by the time the doctor got there it was too late to do anything.
Coronary thrombosis being a blood clot?
Yes, that moves.
And so then once it got to his heart, it was all over with?
That was it. He was gone at by 11 o'clock.
And you were right there throughout the whole thing and not knowing what to do, huh?
Yeah, but the doctor got there a little while before, and then Kay and Marie came over and got Reverend Peterson to come up from the church, and so he was there.
So the doctor was actually there when it happened?
Yes.
And he couldn't do anything either, huh?
Because they didn't know, he'd never seen him before and didn't have any idea really what was the matter. So.
It's strange to think that in today's day and age, that sort of thing wouldn't have been so hard to...
Well, it wouldn't have happened in this
Right.
day and age because they would have discovered that he had a blood clot before when he went to bed. And if he had stayed in bed longer, maybe the blood clot would have just dissolved or whatever it does if he hadn't gotten up. But he got up and went to work, and that's what made it move.
Mm. That's tough stuff.
It's all part of life.
It's all part of life. Life cycles.
She looks so happy now, but
Is she sleeping?
yeah.
Well, every time I stop moving her, she wakes up.
She's gonna be one spoiled kid.
We've actually all been spoiled by you.
Mm-hmm.
Darn
No, I
lucky.
wouldn't say that.
Oops.
That's a
Darn
grandma's
lucky.
privilege.
I remember all the trips we took to the amusement parks every summer. We would go to Universal Studios every summer.
Disneyland.
Disneyland,
Disneyland,
With the
Magic
e-tickets.
Mountain,
Magic Mountain.
Lion Safari.
I don't remember that one ever. Do you remember that one, cousin?
Oh, you all went, because I
Once in a
remember I
while.
got mad at you for fighting with Tiffy,
Yeah.
Oh,
which
that's
you
no
always
news.
did.
I don't remember Lion Safari. The funny thing is, my mother lives real close to it now, and I'm anxious to go there because I can't remember anything
No,
about
this
it.
was the
They don't
line,
have
the one
that.
in Irvine. The
Oh.
one by
Yeah,
Yeah,
Irvine.
they don't
that's
have that
closed.
anymore, the Lion
Oh.
Safari.
Not the
Oh.
Wild
Lion-
Animal Park.
Lion
Oh,
Country
okay,
You
so
were
it
kind
is a
of thinking
different
of
one.
the zoo.
That's
No,
the one where
there's,
we drive in the
no,
car.
there's another one that you drive in the car in San Diego, I think, right now. It's near my mother. It's called,
Oh yeah, the one out
It's a
of
wild
San
animal
Diego,
park, yeah.
Wildlife
Yeah, wild
Park.
animal
Yeah, but
yes.
you don't drive in your own car.
you don't?
No, you're on a tram.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, you go on a tram after you get there, but it's out of San Diego. I think I took Bob, I went there with Bob and Mary and Deb. Yeah,
Debbie had a birthday there once.
I think we've only been there once.
We put her on an elephant, and we took Lisa. Remember Lisa, the
Yes.
neighbor down the street? And the two girls had a ball, and we saw a secretary bird. I remember those birds with the long legs, and they looked like a busy little secretary.
But we had a lot of good, oh no, we wake up wide awake.
And when Dad was young, you used to let all his friends come over and party in the basement, and you'd buy him booze and everything.
No.
No,
I thought that was the story, that you would get him some vodka or whatever and say, as long as you stay in
no,
the
I
house.
didn't give them anything.
Oh.
I had nothing to do with that part of
Uh,
Bobby's
I thought
career.
the story went, you got the booze so that they'd stay in the house.
No, I got beer and gave them some beer sometime, but that was all.
Yeah.
But I certainly didn't keep plying them with liquor.
No,
like that
no.
sounds.
But I thought that the story went that you felt better if they wanted to drink, let them drink in the house, and that was fine, or whatever.
That's a theory that I think every parent has. That
Better to know what
it's
they're
to
doing.
know what your
Right.
kids are doing
Mm-hmm.
and who they're spending their time with, rather than saying, "Oh, just go
Right.
down the street to Joe's house and stay down there."
Mhm.
How are you going to get to know your kid?
Of course, nowadays you can't do it because the parents of the other kid who's drinking at your house can sue you. So,
Yeah, that's true too.
Well, we didn't sue people in my
Mhm.
day.
yeah, there's an awful
So do you
lot.
think OJ did it?
You what?
That's right. You watched every single day of the O.J. Simpson trial.
So do you think he's guilty?
Yes, I still think he's guilty.
Okay.
And I knit 50 pairs of baby booties
During that trial.
Oh,
That's funny. And the table I have, the dining room table, was bought by you and Bill.
Yes, when we first moved to California, in our house.
And you know what was unbelievable is this weekend on TV, they were showing something on Entertainment TV, ETV channel, and it was somebody's retro house up in Hollywood, and they had that dining room table
I'm not
with your
smart.
chairs. I saw the chairs, and I went, "Look, Becca," and just as we looked, and they then panned the table and showed the legs under the table, and it was exactly your set.
Well, you can remember that Neva and Art Hughes in Wisconsin had it too.
Oh, they did?
Don't you remember that?
No, I don't remember
The
that.
first thing that I got in their house was when I walked in their house, I said, "That's my dining room table."
So what
So-
year did you buy that?
43, when we moved into the house.
Mm. So Bill saved up an awful lot of money to get the house and the property going?
Well, we didn't have any money saved up, we just lived
You just took a loan and made the payments?
No, we didn't take any loans. We just, well, we took a loan, yes, and we paid so much every month.
Right.
And we just paid a lot every month and didn't do anything for a long time till we had it all paid for in about a year.
In a year you had it all paid
Yes.
for? Sheesh, that's not bad.
We didn't do much, but
Nowadays it's 30 years.
Yeah, but don't forget the house was how much?
Yeah, but back then you made how much?
the house was cost about $5,000.
And then the
I think.
lot was 900.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's $5,900, and of course that was a lot in those days.
Yeah, how much did Bill make a year back then?
oh, I don't remember what his salary was. It always went, so I don't remember what it was. But I know that when we started out, $225 was a big salary.
For a month?
And yes, and you could do all kinds of things on 200. That was awfully good after 125.
Yeah, but you can't pay off a $5,900 loan on $225 a year.
Well, our loan payments
No,
were
a
only,
month.
well, I don't even remember what we paid a month, but I don't think we paid any more than $100 a month on our house. I don't really remember.
Well, don't look at me, I was too small.
Yup, I'm just looking because I don't ever remember what we paid, and I wrote the checks, but I can't even remember what they were. But we had I don't even remember the year that our house was paid off.
Were you guys ever involved in the stock market during that period?
Yes, we were in city service.
That was the name of the
I
stock you
think
owned?
that was the name of the big stock that everybody bought into a city service.
Huh.
And we were in that a little bit, but, and I think after 5 years, we broke even.
Nah, after 5 years you broke even.
We
Oof,
got I think I got all our money back.
sheesh.
But that was the only time we went in the stock market. Not like your daddy. Not like your daddy, no. Oh, she's wide awake, no. But not unhappy. I should think she'd be cold.
Mm-mm.
And when you lived in Bismarck, I remember you said that there was so much snow every winter you could slide off your roof into the snow.
Oh, and yes, off the garage roofs. Into the snowbanks. That was our winter entertainment. That and picking up the boys in the cars and chasing them through the alleys. Called cruising now, but we didn't cruise, we just chased them.
Just chased them.
Yeah, we didn't call it cruising.
Did they have their own car?
Oh yes, they had cars, and we'd try to lose them, and then they'd get ahead of us, and we'd try to get them, and they're still doing that in Bismarck.
So you'd be racing around in your father's 1920, whatever it was?
Oh, we had a new car every year, so we had a different car every year.
Sheesh. Was that a luxury? Have a new car every year?
No, my dad just took good care of cars, and he had to use the car, all the time, so he had it serviced every week so that it was kept up.
Mm-hmm.
And now we come up to the great-grandchildren. And what are we going to predict for them? What's going to be in store for little Sage? Goodness only knows. I don't know what it's going to cost her to go to college, but it cost me just $1,000 a year for my board and room, my books.
Yeah, the numbers they predict now are crazy. Crazy numbers. Like
10 or 40?
no, it's insane. It's like $100 and something thousand for all 4 years of a public school, room and board. And if it's a private school, then it's like $250,000 or some crazy thing.
Yeah.
That's 20 years from now. That's what they predict.
Yeah, that's what's going to face you. Yes. Yes.
And then how about the time you met me in Greece?
Oh, well, that was our wonderful trip.
Was it scary to fly all the way to the other side of the world?
Oh, wasn't too happy in the airplane, especially when I was sitting by the little lady from Saudi Arabia and the one from Germany, and neither one of them could talk English. And I was in the window seat, and the little lady from Arabia, who was not a young lady, was an older lady, sat with her legs crisscrossed so that her feet wouldn't swell. And if I'd had to go to the bathroom, I couldn't have gone if I'd wanted to.
Sheesh. That was all the way over to Germany?
All the way to Frankfurt, yes.
Ugh. That makes for a long flight. So you never got up to go to the bathroom?
No, and
Sheesh.
then I got to Crete, and no grandson at
Yeah.
the airport. He was at one side of the airport, and I was at the other side of the airport. It was about 110 degrees, I think, or even more.
Yeah, it was
And
hot.
so I gave until I sat in the airport trying to talk to somebody in English. Nobody could talk English. And I gave you till 6 o'clock to pick me up. And at 6 o'clock, you came by to catch the next airplane that you thought I was going to be on, and found me already there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was terrible.
And then we had a wonderful time.
Yeah.
Rode the donkey.
Rode the donkey to get to the top of the Acropolis and Rhodes. Got to go see the Egyptian pyramids. Did you ever in your life think you'd see the Egyptian pyramids?
No, I never did. We did everything except get to Santorini, and we didn't get there because we were too tired and Mike
Yeah,
couldn't go.
Did a lot.
But we did everything else.
She's doing back bends here.
She is.
Yeah, her hands back and her feet trying to push up. Aren't you?
And she's as good as gold now.
Can you think of anything else, cousin?
I think you should turn it off.
Okay.
I can't think of anything else. It's been a life, you just live it, and it isn't very exciting when you're living it, it's just, you're living it.
It's not very exciting when you're living it.
I hope you know how to turn it off.